Ow! My hand! I have parts! PVC fittings. Bicycle chain. 2 sprockets, the same size. If you can see where this is going. Transmission shift solenoid sequences. That goes inside the car.
Man's never been in marquee when it's shut down, eh? Trust me, daddy.
Brass fitting, thermal plugs, cap, washers, and a fuel injector I used as a model. Fuel injectors I don't need to use anymore, so I'm going to go over here on the shelf for a later assortment. Let's start off today with thermal plugs. Before I go try to start it, let me say, hey, I have 6 very large exhaust leads, or vacuum leads. First, I need to figure out a way to, so I have these PVC fittings so that I can cut this one down so it goes on here. You can see it goes on, but it stops. That's because there's a little lip on the inside of there. If you can see that, probably can't. But that lip is just ever so small enough that I can press it on there. And so that will be that. And then this one, I'm just gonna measure that, figure out which drill I need to use, cut this up, and then cut this up, and then just like that, cover the other hole. So that I can have an oil chamber so that I can feed the distributor oil through that little hole. The distributor is going to be sitting kind of like this in the engine bay, if you can see it, like that. So that the vacuum line goes up and over the engine. The oil feed, because that's what the PVC is for, so that it acts as pretty much just like a drip system. And it'll just drip out down the shaft onto the chain, blah blah blah. I need to keep the sprocket on there. But the washers, I got big ones because they fit ever so just absolutely glove-like on that shaft. And then this pretty much snaps right in place with the washer there. See? And bada boom, bada bing. You make the hole of the sprocket smaller. So that you have sprockets. Now it's not exactly how I'm going to stack it. I have like that, and then another one, just so I can help align it. And then I'm just going to weld it right to the shaft. Alright, just a quick little recap. I got all the injector holes plugged up. These wires right here, all I'm going to do is unbolt the grounds from this, move these down somewhere in there, and just ground these elsewhere, and then just run a ground cable from here to there, just a ground from here to there. And then yeah, I'll be taking the intake manifold back off, filling up some holes that are leaking. There's a lot more on the bottom. All the injector holes should be filled. While the intake's off, weld up some holes, drill and tap some fittings right there, probably be underneath even. Figuring out the PCV situation. Here's the PCV tube. It's underneath the manifold. That's just going to go up to the air cleaner box. The air cleaner box on the carburetor may be reviewed just to make sure that it's all working and dandy. And actually, just on side thought, I could even just put a filter on the end of that, at the end of the PCV valve, and call it good enough. I think while it's still here, I like where it's sitting at, so I'm going to measure a rod to go from here all the way up to the bottom, and that's just to act as support since it's all just held on by rubber hoses and clamps. I'll be working on the distributor shortly after that. The intake shouldn't take too long. It's janky. It's gonna be janky. And I'm probably also gonna get, whenever I get the spacer for the carburetor, I'm gonna make two gaskets out of cardboard. How appropriate. Also probably gonna get like a stop sign or some form of road sign, just so that I can make a tray for the carburetor and make a heat shield for the exhaust and the distributor. just because it's going to be PVC plastic and whatever the distributor cap is made out of above the cast iron headers. So shield, plate, spacer, whenever that's 3D printed. Drill some holes using the 3D printed spacer or a spacer that I can find, just so that all the holes are aligned. I'm just going to use the base plate, the manifold. I'm just going to tap some holes in there and use some bolts, just so that's all figured out and situated. Yeah, Carl's not that far out from starting.
You serious?
Just gonna zip tie up some loose dangling wires that don't do anything. Should be mint. I look at it like a Swedish Crown Vic. Think about it: rear wheel drive, bulletproof, not literally, but rigid. It's a small motor. It's not the smallest. These cars came with like a 2.5 in Europe, but they also got a 3.0 in Europe. Anyway, all I know is this thing's gonna get an engine swap after the inline 6 pops. And if I can't kill the inline 6, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I could sell it to some 740 owner. Sorry if the camera's pointed down. I'm just holding it with my hand. But maybe I could sell the motor to some 740 owner and be like, hey, you want an engine swap but don't know squat about computers? Oh, jeez. Yep, vacuum line's up next. Random progress update. Everything's covered in plastic dust. So, this is so that I can fill it with oil, cap it off, and it will just pretty much drizzle out and lubricate everything. And then you look over here in the old engine bay. Now, over here in the engine bay, you see I have my carburetor. It's not mounted. It's just sitting there. I'm waiting for a spacer to be 3D printed. I still need to drill and tap a fitting for the brake booster, and I also need to I have a brace for the manifold. Goes down to the factory manifold spot, and I plugged off all the injector holes. I started planning out a whole throttle cable situation. It's not looking very good. It'll work in the end. It'll all make sense in the end. But then my distributor here, you can see I modified it a lot. It's got a little oil fill cap here. And then I was doing some thinking, this engine's not going to live long enough, so I'm just going to take this sprocket, and it just so happens to have 3 little points, if you can't see that. And I'm just going to pop, chain right across, dip boop, using these two, these 2 bolts right here. You can't see what I'm pointing at. Gonna make a bracket, and then using these 2 bolts, gonna make a bracket. So it's gonna hold on to the distributor head, and down here just below the fill point. So that should be plenty of area to prevent rotation knocking off the timing chain, which would suck. And then the timing chain, whenever it's all timed up, said and done, is it's pretty much just going to be permanently etched into the sprockets. It's all coming together. I posted pictures of this thing, and first thing people said is a Mach 4 Toyota Supra would absolutely smoke that thing. What? Well, yeah, that car makes what? 300, 280 horsepower stock? And this car makes 200 with the fuel injection off the showroom floor, and now has a carburetor, so it's probably making 150, and it weighs 1,000 pounds more than a Toyota Supra. Yeah, no. But what is funny is, for all those Supra fanboys, Google the quarter mile of a 2002 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and Google the quarter mile of a 2002 Toyota Supra Turbo. And be sure to have your little rag around, because you're not going to like the answer to that one. I hate JDM fanboys. I hate them. Anyway, they're like, we hate you too. Like, cool, don't care. You know why? Swedish engineering. When everything says made in Germany. But it's still pre-Ford era. I got an interesting one in my hands. I don't know where I'm going to run my, shoot. I swore again. I'm gonna need to get another brass nipple and tap yet another hole for the vacuum advance, because I might as well have vacuum advance. And I'll need to double check which way this will be spinning, if it's gonna spin in the direction I want. Awesome! If not, and it's gonna spin backwards, oh well. I guess I'm just gonna have to go ahead and lock out the weighted advance, and I'm still gonna use the vacuum advance. I'm still gonna try to use the vacuum advance and see what happens. But overall, this thing will probably have an idle that sounds something like a nothing like a hog-ass cam in a B6294. I have no idea what this is. It's a 2.9 inline 6, I know that much. So yeah, she's all y'all boys putting shocks and springs on your car and saying, respect the build, bro. I made an intake manifold from scratch in 4 hours.
Just take it easy, champ. Why don't you stop talking for a while?
Anyway, if you guys enjoyed today's video, that'd be all. That's great. Go ahead and feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video and want to see more Volvo content. And alright, y'all have a good one.